What's up guys, Sub-Zero here, back for not another VOD review actually. Today's going to be one of those patch rundown videos because we got 14.2 coming out on Wednesday. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my patch rundown today, and then tomorrow I'm just going to do a VOD from the new patch. And you're going to say, wait, tomorrow's Tuesday, depending on what time zone you're in, how are you going to do a VOD on the new patch? Well, I'm just going to wait until the evening, until APAC wakes up and they're playing on the new patch, and I'll just do a VOD review of like Rank 1 Japan or Rank 1 Korea or somebody on the new patch. So that will be quite fun. And so I thought, today we should go over the patch, see what everything's looking at, because I really just want to focus up on the new patch. That's what the Cup and the Trials are going to be played on. So this is important competitively for all the TFT players out there who want to play in these tourneys, and or if you just want to climb on the ladder. So let's hop into it. First thing we got here, just kind of like systems changes. They're decreasing the amount of gold going to these hack bribes. I think this is great. I think this is something that a lot of people said before even the set released, is they were like, these bribes are too much. It makes it so you really, like almost always, if you're getting 3 gold for taking an augment, you're almost always going to take that, because 3 gold is, especially in the early game, a lot of gold. So I think this makes a ton of sense to decrease the values, and the prismatic values felt really high as well. So nerfing those down, I think, is great. So happy with that. There's really just stuff overall that's combating inflation in the game, hitting this like hacked orbs value, where the one that spits out a bunch of the tiny little silver orbs, that's getting like almost halved actually at the start, and then a decent bit lower further on. I think that's great as well. There's a little bit too much money in the game right now with all these hacks, and so I think that's great. And the most important one, hacked orbs containing health pickups will now, this is fine. This is good that you don't get trade hacks underwatering trainers, but the most important one, hacked orbs containing health pickups will now move to the player if left on the board for 2 rounds. So no longer do you have to do this weird mini game where you're trying not to pick up the HP orb. It's just, you should pick up the HP. It is 2 rounds, but anytime that you are getting the HP orb, you are not going to have a carousel within 2 rounds. It's usually it's either at the start or at the end, so you don't have to worry about not picking up the orb anymore. Yay. Good job, Riot Games. I appreciate it. All right, let's look at some traits here. All right, Boombot buff. I was actually a little surprised by this one. I went to go pull up the statistics on this, because I know, I don't see it very often, I will say, but when I do see 6 Boombot, it has performed pretty well. 6 Boombot. Yeah, it's performing at about the level of stuff like 7 Divinicore. Okay, I do think it's more of a chase trait than these other ones, so I do think, you have to find a 5 cost and a +1 or 2 +1, so it's definitely hard to get to. Whereas, Divinicore, I guess it's kind of a similar idea, and Divinicore is a 7 Divinicore, so I kind of wonder why they want to buff this up so much. I know the units are kind of not great, you're not that excited to play it, but yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that it needs, this is a big buff, right? And another 50 damage times 2 on the missile, so yeah, I'm honestly a little bit surprised by this, but we'll see. Cypher, he doesn't have the specific stuff here, but he basically said they're making a lot of the bad cash outs better, essentially, is what it sounded like from him. And that I think he said it would be a buff to some of those cash outs. I'm a little afraid of this, because I do think Cypher is just kind of broken in general. I'll wait to see where we see what the actual stuff ends up at, but I do think Cypher is something that, like, if you get a Cypher spot, and a Cypher spot is usually you get dropped a Draven or you get dropped a Galio to start off the game, you should just force Cypher, and you can oftentimes have that just snowball you into an easy first. So I don't know. I expected to see a bigger nerf for Cypher. I'll be real. And in the realm of things that I guess I'm not surprised they changed it so much, but this is a big change. Golden Ox, big buff here. They're up in the damage amp at 4 Golden Ox by 2, and then at 6 Golden Ox by 5, and they're up in the gold chance by 10% at 4, and then 25 at 6. It's a lot. This is a big buff to Golden Ox. Tiny little damage amp nerf at 2 Golden Ox, which I think is very needed. And these amounts scale up, right? That's the other thing, is they scale up each time that you kind of do the Golden Ox thing. So this is a big buff to Golden Ox. I still don't really think Golden Ox is just, I don't think it's a trait that actually works theoretically. It's just you're not getting that much power at the end of the game. A lot of the power is kind of tied to this gold proc chance. So I still don't think this one is going to be broken with these numbers, but hey, maybe it opens up a spot where if you can actually take Golden Ox +1, which I don't think you can take right now. So I like them trying for it. It is a bit extreme, but I think with Golden Ox, it's pretty rough, so you have to go quite extreme. Speaking of extreme as well, we have a big change to Nitro here. Basically, the idea of this is they're nerfing the HP you get per scrap, they're nerfing the spell heal, they're nerfing the grenade damage, and they're nerfing the laser damage, but If you get to your 3 stars, you get a lot more stacks. So 4 to 6 stacks at 3 star. That is, you know, a 58% increase. That's a lot more if you can get to your 3 stars. So it's a nerf to this kind of like tempo nitro that we've been seeing, you know, play nitro and then tempo into like a fast 8, play around, you know, Zeri and stuff like that. I need to cough. Give me 1 second. But yeah, a nerf to that kind of like tempo nitro that we've been seeing and a buff to reroll nitro. I mean, this seems pretty drastic to me. I don't actually mind. I think they just want nitro to be reroll, which is, I guess, fair. I guess that's the identity of it. But I don't actually hate that nitro, like, you can play reroll or you can play fast 8. I would kind of feel sad if they just completely killed this like fast 8 nitro variant. And I know it's a bit strong right now, so hopefully, I mean, these seem like pretty big nerfs, right? And 3 HP per every single scrap that you're losing, and then, you know, losing the spell, you know, some of this base spell heal, the base grenade damage, like, this is decent nerfs on all of these. So I hope that you'll still be able to play fast 8. To me, this looks a bit extreme, and I imagine we're going to be in a world where you just only play scrap from reroll or nitro from reroll, which I don't love, but we'll see. But I don't love this. I think this is kind of making the trait less two-dimensional, more one-dimensional is, I guess, the way to say it, which I generally don't love. I like when you can play stuff flexibly like this. So, all right, 7 Syndicate here. They just nerfed a few of the 7 Syndicate buffs. I think this is fine. 7 Syndicate is really, really strong, so fair enough. All right, other trait changes. Love this. They buffed the bad Exotech items and nerfed the good ones. I mean, that's basically all it comes down to. Big buffs for Cyber Coil, decent buffs for Hollow Bow, a little bitty buff for Hyper Fangs, but still pretty decent. And then Flux Capacitor, a decent nerf. I think they probably could have gone harder on like the actual effect for Flux Capacitor. We'll see. But I imagine this is still going to be just like the best one. Even, I mean, it's 5% AS, it matters, but, you know, not an insane amount. And then Pulse Stabilizer, also decent nerfs to the AD and crit. I don't think they want to swing super, super hard on this, which I think is fair. And I mean, the big thing is we just needed Cyber Coil and Hollow Bow buffs, and I think this hits very nicely. So I'm very pleased with this. You aren't going to just look at the start of the game and say, oh, I got Cyber Coil, GG's, like, unlucky, which is very nice. Or Hollow Bow, GG's, I'm unlucky. So I'm happy for that. All right, champions here. Decent buff to Poppy's just spell damage. It's just her damage, not her scaling on her ability. It's just the base spell AP damage. I think this is fine. Poppy's a pretty underwhelming unit, and you're never really excited to play for like Poppy 3 type stuff. There is also a buff to Poppy's Hero Augment this patch, so I wonder if Poppy Hero Augment's gonna be really, I could certainly see it being really, really good after these double buffs. Shaco buff to get him back a little bit in line. They saw that he was broken on PBE and were like, we don't want there to be a broken Shaco on release, which is quite fair. So yeah, I think this is quite reasonable. Here's an interesting one. So the Naafiri Pentuple buff, the thing that I think people are a little scared of is there are already people who are kind of interested in Naafiri 3 as a potential carry. I actually tried it out on stream when I was climbing the other day. I went third with it, and honestly, I think if I'd played better, I could have gone first with it. I was gifted like the god spot for it, and I actually think I could have won out with Naafiri reroll, which, I mean, goes to show that the comp has potential. The thing that actually makes me feel okay with this, though, is that a lot of these buffs, you know, the Packmate AD buff, this is really a big buff at 1 and 2 star, and the Alpha's AD buff, it's only a buff at 1 and 2 star. Increasing AS and AD by a small amount is a little worrying, just because these are bigger buffs, and just the spell AD 265 to 275. So we'll see how it. I don't want to say it's an over buff, because, you know, they are keeping it so that once you get to 3 star, but I am actually afraid of like Naafiri 2 being like a monster on the new patch. We'll see if that's actually true or not, but I'm not going to be surprised if Naafiri reroll actually ends up being quite good on the new patch. Now, do I think it's going to end up in like the Giga OP lane? I mean, honestly, you're buffing Nitro reroll. Naafiri plays very nicely into Nitro reroll. I could see it. I could see Naafiri Nitro reroll being really, really broken on the new patch. So yeah. And then TF, just a little bit of a buff to base TF and then a nerf to TF with the hat on him. I think this is generally good. Base TF feels pretty bad and hat TF feels really good. So I like what they're doing a lot there. All right, the recost nerfs and buffs actually. Big buff to Jarvan, 10 AD, more base spell shield, and a buff to his spell, a huge buff to his spell AD. Jarvan is a unit that I didn't think was really, he doesn't really exist on the board, so you're not like excited. You're like, oh my god, you know, I'm playing for Jarvan, but you also don't really need to. He's a triple trait unit. Oftentimes on the boards you're playing him, you can activate all 3 traits. I was kind of the opinion that Jarvan should be a bad unit because his traits are so good, but now they're actually buffing up the unit a lot as well, which is quite scary to me. So I don't love this. I think Jarvan should just be kind of a weaker unit because he has triple trait and they're pretty good traits, but okay. Rengar nerf, I think is, yeah, I mean, this is the best reroll comp by far. If you end up in a spot, you can just hard force Rengar from so many spots. Oh, here, let me move my head a little bit so I'm not blocking all the Rengar numbers here. But yeah, I mean, I think this is absolutely necessary. And to me, does not look like an over nerf. It's a decent nerf, and hitting a spell heal by, 30 here at 3 star is quite, it's a decent impact. 1/7 of the amount that you're getting there. It's a big nerf to a spell heal, and that's where I really feel like Rengar's power is, and just healing up and just kind of going infinite once you have like Titans fully stacked and stuff like that. And I think this will make him more beatable in those kind of spots. So I like the changes. I like the changes to Rengar, I will say. All right, and for costs, really just kind of helping some of the ones that have felt just not great throughout the entire patch. Annie, buff to her base spell damage and to her mini fireball damage. Annie, I mean, she's one of the least playable forecasts, I will say, after the nerfs to her. So I like this. You're never really excited to be like, oh my god, I'm gonna slam blue buff and like play an Annie carry game. It just doesn't really exist right now. So I like, it's a decent buff. I wonder if they could go further, but I don't think they want to overbuff, especially after how good she was pre-nerfs. So I think this is a fine place to start. And then Cho'Gath, this is a nerf to his spell health gain AP scaling, but a buff to his spell health gain HP scaling. Spell health gain AP scaling. Spell health gain HP scaling. Right. Okay, so the idea and health gain from his spell no longer scales with his percent HP. The idea is basically to make Cho'Gath less reliant on 6 Bruiser. With these changes, they're kind of trying to make base Cho'Gath better and then make 6 Bruiser Cho'Gath worse. This is really touchy. Something like this happened last set with Dr. Mundo. That was last set, right? Where Dr. Mundo was really, really broken with Bruiser Spat. So they nerfed all of his scaling with HP, and then he ended up just sucking the entire set because, I mean, they realized we can't make him too broken with all this HP scaling stuff. And a similar thing was kind of happening with Cho'Gath, where he's really good with 6 Bruiser and kind of trash under all other circumstances. So it's a scary design space, essentially, that they're in with this Cho'Gath guy. And so I think that they're going in the right direction, but I hope if he's not that strong after these changes that they don't just they kind of left Mundo the entire last set and didn't do anything to him, and he just ended up being a pretty bad tank. And so I hope they don't do that with Cho'Gath. MF, just one kind of similar to TF, shifting some of her power out of the hat and into the base. This is actually it's a buff to MF without the hat, and then it's just exactly power neutral with the hat. And I think this is solid. I do like playing MF in these setups without Syndicate, and Syndicate was a really, really big kind of bonus onto her. So I do think this is a good change overall onto the Misfortune setup. So yeah. All right. Zed. Oh yeah, this is just a buff to 3-star Zed. I don't really care, honestly. Yeah. All right. Samira, 5 AD buff. Perfect. I think this unit is not that great now, but not so bad that I think she needs a crazy buff or anything like that. So I think this is great. And she's the weakest of the 5 cost. As far as other 5 cost changes, it is a bit strange that they're leaving all the other ones as is. I mean, if you just kind of look at how they play out fights, Viego definitely seems a bit too strong. I think Viego could have deserved a little nerf. I think Kobuko could have been buffed back up a little bit. Kobuko feels quite bad right now. You should never really excited to throw items on a Kobuko. Even Kobuko 2 sometimes doesn't double cast. Kobuko is bad right now. So I'm pretty surprised. And Aurora, I almost forgot, but Aurora is is the standout 5 cost that is just disgusting, that she does a ton of damage, protects herself, throws in a unit from your bench. The unit does it all. Why is Aurora allowed to exist in the state that she is in? So I think I don't mind the change to Samira, but it's kind of strange to me that they didn't make the changes for the other 5 costs. Kind of odd to me, but all right. Items, Trenchcoat buff. I mean, this is the worst artifact in the game by a mile, so I think a buff to it is very necessary. And then a little bit of buff to Marksman emblem. I don't have that many feelings on this. I mean, especially because there is no 6 Marksman. This is just non-exciting, but maybe this will make it at least a little bit more playable. I'm down, but yeah, you're not that excited about Marksman emblem, and you probably still won't be even after this, but maybe it's at least in the right direction. All right, other augments. This is what I was talking about, the hero augment section. Buff Jax hero augment, buff Poppy hero augment, buff Silas hero augment. These are all, I would say, underperforming, not to a degree that they were horrible, but certainly to a level where you weren't excited to see them. And I think, they want you to be excited to see things like this and be like, oh, I'm gonna play a Jax game and not get destroyed. This is a really big buff to I was just looking at the Jax ones. I mean, honestly, even just the buff 5 to 7 max stacks means that he's just going to go infinite even more often when he gets there. And then also just big buff to his strike damage, big buff to his damage gain per stack. I wonder if this is going to be too much. I mean, you can go back and tell me if it sucks after and it's still bad and needs more buffs, then let me know. But this seems kind of crazy to me. I'll be real. The Poppy one, it's also a pretty decent buff, but and they're also buffing Poppy, so a little bit afraid for that as well. But at least the Poppy base buff is not that crazy, but it is a big buff. Unless it like uses a completely different spell than the base Poppy, because this is buffing the base spell damage for this, and then this is like her spell's AP damage. I wonder if it actually, I mean, if that's the case, then I think that's totally fine. If it kind of like replaces it with a completely different spell, if it doesn't base it off that buff for the Poppy, which might be true. If that's the case, then I think this is totally fine then. And then the Silas buff, I mean, pretty decent buff to his spell damage, a buff to its HP percent as well. 10 to 15% is huge, by the way. And then they're nerfing the recast effectiveness a little bit, but I mean, I still think this is also a really, really big buff. So, I mean, I want to see these be playable. The Jax one I'm the most worried about. The Poppy one, if my assumption is correct, I'm the least worried about. But yeah, I would be excited after the patch to take this Jax here augment. This is a big, big buff. So we'll see. We won't see in the stats. We'll just see if people are popping off of the augments. Other augments, Cyberdeck. This is the Exotech one, and both of the Exotech ones getting pretty substantial nerfs, I think, is very necessary. These are just kind of broken. So yeah, definitely think those two both should have been hit. Chugbug getting buffed a decent bit is interesting. I mean, I haven't seen this one go crazy outside of just playing it with the random like Bruiser Fiddlesticks reroll. So I think fine. But yeah, I mean, overall, I don't mind this. And then Transistor, this is the one where your Bastions will like gain attack speed. And it's really, this is just a weird augment to me. It's one of those augments that I feel like just doesn't make sense in its play pattern. It only makes sense really onto Renekton, but you can't take an augment knowing that you're going to get a Renekton. It just doesn't, you're not going to have a Renekton at even, 4-2. And, if you take this at 2-1, you're definitely not going to have it. So I'm down for them to buff it, but I almost just think they should remove this, but we'll see. All right, Prismatic augments. I talked about this one. Chemtech Overdrive, no longer appearing on 2-1 is fantastic. This was 3 gold per round at 2-1, which is just not legal. I mean, you just can't print that augment. So happy that they got that out of there. I'm gonna move my head so you can see everything. And they actually buffed it pretty considerably with the fact that you can no longer take it on 2-1. So I guess the statistics on it on 3-2 are not looking that crazy. It's still 3 gold per round on something like 3-2, and you can, gain a bunch of HP and attack speed onto your frontliners. So I still think this should be quite solid on 3-2. It's just a big buff on the 3-2 version. Cruel Pact, haven't been able to take this yet, so I can't really speak to it, but I mean, 3 HP a turn versus 4 HP. I mean, it's a big buff for sure. I mean, Cruel Pact, when it was good, was definitely good to cap you out like low enough to get like a top 4 or top 3 or something like that. I don't know. I mostly just want to take a Cruel Pact game. And then Double Trouble, a decent buff as well. This is another one where I don't think there has really been like a Double Trouble comp that has been found yet. And so, increasing the stats a little bit maybe nudges more people towards finding it. I'm down. And they also bug fixed it. So if you 3-star unit on the bench, it actually gives you the 2-star copy, which is kind of a hilarious bug to exist. That would have been for whatever sad person who made a 3-star on their bench, then didn't get the copy. That would be, I'm very sad for you. Lifelong Learning, a bit of a buff to this as well. I haven't seen this one do well, and Scope Weapons as well. I haven't seen do well. So I think both of these is quite good. All right, Circlets. This is kind of like a big rework on the Circlets where they're giving better units for a lot of them and components for a lot of them. It's kind of weird because like the idea of the Circlet was like they're going to be worse than the trait augments of the past. And now they're buffing a lot of them to be as good as trait augments of the past, which I think is fine. Like I think a lot of these Circlets on release were completely unpickable because like why are you taking, a prismatic augment that gives you just strategist +1? It just doesn't really work as an augment. And they're also still keeping the nerfs to the ones that are, like the Anima Squad ones, the ones that have chase traits for them. That's the idea behind those, is that it should allow you to get to a chase trait, which I think is generally fine. You want like more ways in the game of being able to get to stuff like chase traits. So like, I get it. I get why this has been done, but it's kind of weird that they kind of like basically created the old ecosystem where you have these ones that give you like a good unit and like a glove or something like that. But you also have the other, I think the chase trait ones should be nerfed. So I think this is pretty reasonable. And it also, I'm excited to just take a techie Circlet and get like a brand, especially, Mortal was talking about, you can take these on like 3-2, get a brand. That's pretty cool. So yeah, I'm overall fine with all of these. Giving the units, giving you a lot of direction, I think is pretty solid and fun. And Hyper Roll and Double Up, nothing. Bug fixes. Oh, and I kept the video 20 minutes. I will say, bug fix that I do want to call out Where is it? It has something to do with Warpath. Warpath counts player damage dealt to ghost armies. I had a game on the set that I played earlier where I was one fight win off proccing. I barely won, and I won the fight, procced it, but it was on a ghost army and I didn't get the proc. I want to believe that Workdog was watching my stream and he saw that and that's why he changed it, but probably not. But either way, I'm very happy to see that because it was just, it was so gross. But yeah, overall, like I said, some good changes, some sus ones. I think the biggest thing that I most kind of like think is weird is the fact that, you know, 5 costs. I mean, like if you look, I mean, win rates don't even really do them justice because of the fact that like Garen's way up here, though I don't think Garen really needs like buffs. It's just, you know, he's going to snowball across the game. But stuff like Viego just does so well, and Aurora. Urgot you can't really count as well because he's just broken by kind of like the Executioner's comp. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, Kobuko, I mean, he's not that far off, but this unit just feels very bad to play. I think just a little like a light buff to him would have been solid, and the nerfs to stuff like Aurora and Viego I think could get to us to an even more balanced state though. I mean, if you look at the numbers themselves, they don't look that bad. So, I mean, that's probably what they're going by. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the review. Like I said, tomorrow we're gonna have a VOD on the new patch. I'll have a cool game to review. I guess it should be fun. So, excited for that. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, if you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my Twitch, my Metafy, all my other links down below, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.